Hello. Welcome to the Failing Writers Podcast.
So Tom. What are we doing this week?
Well, a warm welcome to the Failing Writers Podcast, where this week we are putting the focus on the failing.
And that's different to other episodes because
this week, it's not us who are the ones doing the failing.
Right.
We're going to be talking to a right bunch of losers who are properly failing at being writers.
Tommy, a little bit harsh.
What?
Remember, there'll be some listeners out there who are not yet familiar with your rather obtuse sense of humour.
Right, too much for it. But they'll get used to it. They'll get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what it is, though? It's just my way of painting a thin veneer of my own fragile, yet well-founded literary insecurities. Because in actual fact, the irony is that the three lovely people we're about to hear from on today's episode have probably had more success than I'll ever have, if we're going to be absolutely honest about it. Or you, for that matter, John. Or you.
That's true. That is true. There's more true of you, but that is true.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know. Yet to be proved, isn't it?
Yeah, so we put a call out for writers who are currently querying, but who haven't yet had any joy getting an agent.
Yeah, and you could just shorten that to haven't had any joy for some of it. We got quite a range of responses, didn't we? Of some,
we did.
Like all kinds of different experiences. But what they all had in common, they'd been chipping away for ages.
So in a way, you could say that they're all experts.
That's the spin. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I suppose you could say that kind of. Yeah.
So what is like the idea of today's show? What are we trying to actually achieve here, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, what is the idea? Is it just to make other people querying feel better about themselves, or convince us that we might as well give up right now, as it's virtually impossible to get anywhere in this stupid industry? So jack it all in. Don't bother about it.
Tom, it's not that. At least I hope it's not that. I think the idea maybe is that there's going to be lots of people out there who are in the process of querying, or who are thinking about starting to contact agents and publishers in the near future, like ourselves, Tom.
Possibly, maybe,
and maybe by hearing other people's stories, it might help.
Yeah, all right. I like that. So by sharing other people's journeys, we might learn from those experiences and maybe avoid some of the pitfalls, or kind of do things a certain way. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe just take a bit of solace in the fact that it's hard.
Yeah,
and it's just as hard for pretty much everyone.
I think that's a really good point, actually, because it's easy to go through your daily life thinking that literally everyone else is getting stuff published left, right, and centre. Because you go on any of the social media, and inevitably, if you've got writers on your timeline, it's people saying they've got this deal, or this next, my 15th novel's coming out next week, or they're doing book signings, or, oh no, God, does anybody else know what you do when Netflix signs your first debut book after 3 weeks? Oh my God. It's all that stuff. And you think, that's nice for them, isn't it? And you want to be happy for them somewhere inside you, I'm sure. I don't know if it's just me, but to a small extent, and maybe this is me but I'm sure other people feel like this, small extent, each one of those just stings a little bit, doesn't it? It's like death by 1,000 cuts. And you think, well done you, but that doesn't make me feel particularly good about me.
If only everything on social media was a fair reflection of what life is actually like.
That'd be better, wouldn't it? Rather than the Netflix deal, they'd be posting things like, hey guys, my last book, massive flop, like complete disaster. Wow, worst ever. Yeah, the other ones were pretty bad, but this one, wow, sold 4 copies. That's it. And my gran bought 3 of them. Do you know what I mean? That'd be what it was.
But yeah, having said all that though, I would say that we're just as much to blame. Do you know what I mean?
What you mean for people feel? Well, yeah, because people will listen to us and realise how awesome we are, and then they're gonna feel intimidated, aren't they? They're gonna feel unsure of themselves. If that's the I get that.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, that wasn't quite what I meant, but now you say it, that does make a lot of sense.
It does make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It does, definitely.
No, I was sort of meaning the kind of guests that we have on, all those people,
right?
Hit the big time. They got the sweet deals, the likes of Stu Turton, and Gillian McAllister, Patrick Ness, CJ Tudor, all the rest.
Many more, yeah.
Because actually, they are the rare cases, aren't they? Really?
Yes, I guess they are really. So that's where we're at today, is to restore a bit of the balance, isn't it? To chat to some writers who maybe haven't had the breaks yet. And I say yet, it could, all those people we talked about that were successful at some point had all this rejections and were struggling through stuff. So
exactly,
they haven't had the breaks yet for whatever reason.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, this whole writing malarkey, it can be a pretty lonely, solitary existence. So I thought it's nice, isn't it? It's nice to reach out a little comforting paw to the quiet majority who are not quite there yet.
Yeah, that is nice. So if you're about to set off and dig yourself a nice, big, uncomfortable hole in the querying trenches, what can you expect?
Well, judging from the people who got in touch with us, and in particular the 3 that we're talking to today, you can probably expect absolutely nothing and absolutely anything to happen, probably in roughly equal amounts.
We're back to that sliding scale of success thing, aren't we, where everyone has a different idea of what success means to them. You know, how they judge themselves.
Yeah, indeed. So, first up, we had a chat with Byddi Lee from Northern Ireland. And if you're one of those people who's been querying agents for like a year now and you haven't had a single sniff, maybe you've started to lose hope, well, chin up, because Byddi's been querying for, wait for it, 12 years.
Yeah, count them, 12 years. I mean, that is a querier with some serious stamina, isn't it?
Sends a query, never gets weary. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so our latest book, 5th book, Baron, has been on query for the last 8 months or so.
You got the blurb there, Tommy. Give us a bit of the blurb.
Yeah, she describes it as an upmarket book club fiction blending contemporary and historical narratives with magical realism to tell the story of a grieving woman who communicates with her miscarried child's spirit to uncover an ancient Irish woman's struggle to survive during a climate catastrophe.
See, that sounds wild, doesn't it? But it also sounds great. Why is the querying not working out for Byddi?
Well, let's find out from Byddi.
Thank you very much for joining us. It takes some cojones to come on a podcast called Failing Writers Podcast.
I think I'm past caring about that at this stage.
Well, we always like to point out we're very much talking about us when we talk about Failing Writers. We're happy to own that title.
Or are we? Are we in this case?
Well,
that's for you to tell us, isn't it? Because when we put our thing out on Threads asking for people's experience of trying to get an agent and querying, you sent us through some information. And do you know what struck me about what you told us, and we'll run through some of it, was how nearly successful you've been on so many occasions. Yeah. I mean, let's not go on about it, Byddi, but you've had lots of rejections, but you've done stuff at the time that must have made you think, oh yes, this is going to be it. There's one where you said you won like a date with an agent thing with one of your novels at the Dublin Book Festival, and that you must think when something happens, you think, oh, brilliant! Right, here we go.
Yeah, you do. It's been teasing me the whole time.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's been like having a really crap boyfriend. You know,
who occasionally just brings you a bunch of flowers or something.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? I'm leaving this time. This is it. I'm out of here. And then something really nice happens, and you're like, you forgive him.
This time will be different. This time.
Give us a little bit of your story, Byddi, then, and tell us how long you've been in the querying trenches. Give us a quick rundown.
So I started sort of writing seriously in 2008, and I finished that book up in 2013. That's when I got the date with the agent in Dublin. And the date with the agent, she liked the story, but she wanted to change it quite a lot. And I wasn't prepared to do that. So she wanted to make it into a crime thriller, and it wasn't a crime thriller, basically. And then she also wanted to know what else was on my bookshelf as such. And so I spent quite a bit of time writing up the first chapter of a new idea that was just sort of starting to blossom. And I sent it all off to her anyway. And I never heard. She ghosted me, totally ghosted me. So... And I've since queried her 2 more times, and she completely has never replied. I think that's what gets me the most, is when people don't answer, because you put so much work into it, you know. So that was the first book, and then I self-published it, and it did okay for a self-published book, and then the next book, for some reason I thought it would be really smart to do a trilogy, which it really was a juggernaut of a project to take on. But anyway, I had the first book finished and I was sending it out to agents and I was writing away at the second and third book, and then a small publisher was interested even before the third book was finished, and again it was one of those moments, it was like, oh, here we go.
At last, success. Nothing could go wrong now. Brilliant.
Yeah,
and that's the end of your successful story, is it? And nothing went wrong from there?
Nothing went wrong from there, because my book started out with a mysterious virus that was affecting mostly old people. And the book was launched in March 2020.
Wow.
So lead balloon. So the publisher did put out all 3 books in 2020, and then he went bust in 2022.
But that's probably not your fault.
Yeah, but he did give me back all. He was very decent. He gave me back all the rights straight away. No issues. And he even get through in the covers for free. And so to the end user, to the reader, it doesn't look any different. It's just still up on Amazon and it's doing its thing. And then, being a sucker for punishment, I decided to keep writing, and I wrote the 5th book, which I am now trying to query to agents.
And you said yourself that you don't necessarily stick to a genre.
I think Byddi described herself as a genre slut, actually.
Yeah.
She did. I didn't want to, you know what I mean? But, yeah.
Which I quite like that.
Do you think that's hampered your search?
Yeah, so my first book was sort of women's fiction, but it wasn't that kind of, that sort of happy women's fiction. It had dark humour and it had a sort of a very serious twist to it. So then the second book was science fiction, speculative fiction. And then this one is a complete mashup of historical, contemporary, fantasy, some like magical realism in there that makes it fantasy. And it's about 2 women who are struggling with infertility. So I called it Barren. My mum hates that title, but that's...
I have to say, I read your logline for that one, for Barren, and immediately upon reading it went, oh, bloody hell. Sounds like quite a proper emotional... novel.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of got like a literary aspect to it, Like one of the contemporary timeline, I feel like you could nearly say nothing happens except that the protagonist comes to a realization about what her life means to her, and and that's really what's important about that timeline. And then the other timeline is actually based on something that actually happened 4,000 years ago. Oh, wow. Icelandic volcano caused our northern hemisphere to have like a volcanic winter for 9 years, and in Neolithic times that would have been quite devastating because they didn't have like electricity and so on. So
thanks for the history lesson, Byddi.
Yeah. Just in case you didn't know.
Things are making a lot more sense now. Now, I don't want to, obviously you've been through a lot, you've had a lot of rejections and stuff, but the other thing I thought upon reading that logline is that has got to be sellable, hasn't it? That's something that agents are going to want and publishers are going to want. You can see that on the bookshelves. You can see the Amazon Prime video version of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like I've had several beta readers read it now, and everybody has a different thing that they like about it. Some people love the contemporary timeline better. Men tend to like the ancient timeline better. I think it's all the the horror.
Well, they'd be surprised, won't they? No electricity, no TVs. Yeah. They'd be like, oh, I didn't realise.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
But they had plagues and cannibalism. There was a bit, I threw in some cannibalism there too,
Yeah.
Another beta reader was like, maybe we should have like a sensitivity warning for a trigger warning, for the poor woman who can't get pregnant and beats herself up a lot. And I was like, really? And you were okay with the cannibalism and the plague and but the axe-wielding murderers, all that. Yeah, no, that was all.
It's interesting what you said there, Tom, because I had a different reaction to that. I was thinking from the agent's point of view, because what agents want is something incredibly easy to sell, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, if you're an agent, you're sitting there thinking, I want something I can just hold up and go, look, I've got one of these, and it's a really good version of one of these. I mean, presumably when you're querying, you always need comps, don't you? You always need comparison things.
Yeah.
What are you holding up as comps for that and going, look, it's a little bit like this, but a little bit like this?
My comps are things like the Snow Child is my biggest comp.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it's got that kind of, is that child in the Snow Child even real? You know,
almost a bit sort of fairy tale-ish kind of. But
yeah, and what I'm noticing though with agents is that they are asking for this uplift,
yes,
and they are looking for some cross genre, and I think it's because anything that's in any genre becomes formulaic. And the only way to break the formula is to kind of mash it up a wee bit.
This is where you're at the cutting edge of all this, aren't you?
Yeah, you're mashing them all together.
Yeah.
What was that specific feedback that you got from an agent, or have you just sort of you've interpreted that?
I've actually had this paid to have it edited by somebody who is also an agent, and he was great. He was very good, and I purposefully went as well because it's such a sort of female soaked book. I wanted to have a male perspective on that too. So, but some of the nice feedback that you get, because like a nice rejection nowadays is like, wow, this is great, put you on a high. But so some of the nicer rejections are saying, oh, it was a great pitch, but it's just not for me. You know.
What's the closest you feel like you've got to getting an agent? Have you ever got to a point where you're like, oh, okay, this is probably it now?
No, funny. Mercier Press here it's an Irish press. They did ask for the full manuscript for Rejuvenation, and then they turned it down. So that was a bit of a big hope bonus there, but.
And that was sending direct to the publisher.
Direct to the publisher. So again, no agent. There is a dearth of agents on the island of Ireland too. So they're all kind of seem to be in London. Right. So there's a few in Dublin, but mostly it's London agents you're applying to. So that's another thing, because I kind of feel like, you know, you could maybe, I suppose you could stalk them better. You could like arrive at the same places that they go to and hobnob with them and rub shoulders and.
Oh dear! Oh, is that where we've got to? Is it? Is that where we've got to in this process?
It's probably a good job I don't live in London.
Maybe I could find out where they live. I could probably see through the bedroom window, I would imagine.
Oh dear! Yeah. So
learn what they like from their bins.
Just the normal stuff. Just the normal harmless stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think that's going to be my next pitch to agents, is that, you know, I'm pitching a novel about a writer who stalks agents who don't even reply to her emails.
So at any point, do you regret back in 2013 when you had that agent in front of you saying, maybe if you just completely change the genre of the book you've put in front of me, we could talk? Do you stick to your artistic morals?
Yeah, I know. I think if I'd been younger, and I was like starting out, if I'd been in my early 20s and I already had a career as a teacher behind me, and sort of had a bit more financial stability. But if I'd been really desperate to make money from it, I suppose, I mean, I do look back at that and think, what would, you know, like in a parallel universe sort of thing, what would that have looked like? But I think what that would have looked like was that I would have just started, because once you do that, then the next novel has to be in the same genre. And the next one, and the next one, and I have a couple.
You can't do that if you're not feeling it. Can you?
And I think I might as well have just stayed in teaching, you know, if I wasn't writing what I wanted to write. So
how many agents do you think you've queried, and can you run out of them?
Oh God.
Surely there's a point you're just like, oh God, I've got to go back to the beginning now.
Yeah, I'm sort of at that stage, because. I ran out. So with the screenwriting, I definitely ran out of agents, because there was only about 15 who permitted you to send unsolicited manuscripts. So I ran out of those quite quickly. That only, took me like 2 weeks. With these now, I'm starting to look at American agents, and I have a feeling that they're not going to be as interested in a big set over here and so on. So.
And do you have any preconceptions about what success looks like for writing?
I suppose you do. I suppose I have this idea that the agent's going to just set up all the things for me, that I won't have to do all that, the cold calling you have to sort of do. So that an agent will sort all that out. And then I'll be cherry picking, of course, and only go to the nice festivals.
So is that what success looks like for you?
Actually, no. To me, what success looks like is that, lots of people who I don't know have read my book as well. That's all the people who I do know. So that it's about getting the message out of whatever it is that I'm writing about. I don't know why that's important to me, but there's something about writing, and I'm sure you probably sort of feel it. It's like you want your voice to be heard, and I don't really know why, because I don't know if it's that important, but it's important to me. So that's,
In your email to us, you said that you're at the stage where you're just about ready to quit.
Yeah.
Is that true? I kind of don't believe you, because you've been doing that. You've been querying for like 12 years. Well, I mean, why would you quit now? It seems, you're obviously stubborn.
Yeah.
And also, I suspect your writing has got a lot better over that time as well.
I hope so. You haven't read the first book yet. But I think what it means is that I'll either reconcile myself to being a full-time self-published author, and I will go and do a marketing course. Right. And learn how to actually market the books. So what I've really learned about all of this is that if you look at the tech industry, for example, that you have your venture capitalists, and they're gonna take your idea, and they're gonna put money into it, and they're gonna promote it, and they're gonna help you with putting it out there. And that's really what traditional publishing is. They're the venture capitalists of books, right? So with self-publishing, you're a small business owner, and you get to put out what you want as a business model idea and whatever. But you've got to fund the marketing yourself. And that's kind of the breakdown of it. And it's just, I suppose it just bugs me that traditional publishing has wrapped up things like you'd never get a review in the broadsheets if you're a self-publisher, because that's kind of, they've got that all sewn up. You're not going to get a Booker Prize, not that I want one, but or whatever, win one, but but you're never in those big arenas as a self-published author at the minute. But I think that will change. I think going forward that will change.
It's reckoned, isn't it? Someone gave us. Sunny Dean gave us this stat. It's reckoned that agents take on roughly 1 in 1,000 queries. So how many times have you queried? You must be getting close.
You see that? Yeah. I've got for the book that I'm querying now, I looked this morning, I have 50 queries out, and I have about 24 rejections, and the rest are either going to ignore or have yet to get back. So I think I'll keep going till the end of September and then make my decision then. I've already started thinking about book covers, so when I start thinking about book covers, I know I'm starting to edge down that road.
You've made the turn in your head.
Yeah.
Listen, Byddi, we Tom and I are probably getting closer to a stage, because we've never queried agents before. But we're probably getting a little bit closer to the stage where we might be thinking about doing that relatively soon. What's your big top tip?
Oh God, no, it feels weird giving a top tip whenever you're not getting anywhere with it yourself.
I know, but we're just going to do opposite whatever you say.
That's a great idea, Tom. Top tip? God, I don't know. Just, stalk them.
Oh, we are
definitely.
And Byddi is, of course, joking.
Yes, I am totally.
I guess it's the persistence, isn't it? You've just got to
keep going. Just keep going, and know that your book can live in other realms. You don't have to have an agent. You might be lucky enough to get a small publisher. Although with my experience now with a small publisher, you're nearly better off self-publishing than going with a small publisher. But if you self-publish again, it's this whole idea of make sure your product can compete with the traditionally published book, so that it's you have it really nicely polished and all that, But you're going to have to do anyway. The agents are expecting it to be highly polished now anyway, so keep that in mind, So my top tip would actually be to have it edited before you bring it to an agent, and that's a financial investment, which it sort of hurts to do something like that, because your agent will, if they take you on, from what I've heard, they will probably get you to re-edit and tweak it and change it about anyway.
So, Tom, what have we learnt from that, do you reckon?
I don't know. That it's all completely pointless, futile, and a waste of the precious time that we have on this planet?
I
don't
suspect we could probably spin that a little bit more positively.
You are such a happy clapper. Aren't you?
I am. How about you've just got to stick in there, because good things and bad things will happen inevitably, and you just need to keep on going.
Do you though?
What?
I mean, do you need to just keep on going? They say doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Isn't there a point where you just need to chuck it in as a bad job?
I see what you're saying, but it's not actually, you're not actually doing the same thing over and over again, are you? Because each time you go through that process, it's different. Your writing gets better. You're learning a bit more about the industry, how to query better. You're making new contacts. So you're not repeating the same thing over and over again.
True. But do you not think, is there not a time when you do just need to pack it in for your, I don't know, your sanity, your self-survival,
your self-esteem?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose that's a question for every individual to answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's a point when you do actually need to ask yourself what will actually make you happier, continuing to query or just stopping. But even then, you see, there's other ways to do it, aren't there? You don't have to be querying. There are small indie publishers. There's self-publishing. There are other options.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I guess it is just different for everyone. It's no different than the whole writing thing, is it?
No, exactly.
Before that, whether you think, I can't be bothered with this, but you're just writing for yourself or you're writing for other people. Everyone's got their own different thresholds of what works for them.
Success,
yeah.
Well, okay, let's hear someone else's story then. Let's get another perspective.
Yeah, this is Mary Stewart from New York State. That's how they talk over there, isn't it? Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us and sending your bits and bobs through. I have to say yours was very intriguing, your outline. There was definitely an underlying
angst,
it's sort of sadness, or kind of like melancholy. Let's call it melancholy.
The depression's coming through in my writing. Oh dear.
It kind of gave the feeling that you maybe had the feeling of banging your head against a brick wall.
Yeah.
Tell us your story, Mari. Let's start there. What was it that made you want to start writing? What drew you to it?
Okay. What drew me to writing is that basically the way I survived my childhood was by living in my head. And I have had this world kind of growing in my head since I was maybe 10 years old. So I kind of thought, 40 years later, maybe it's cooked.
Wow. So the original kind of story and the characters have been with you for that long?
Yeah, they have.
That's amazing. Are they kind of loosely based on things that you enjoyed when you were young, in terms of things that you read?
Not really. They were based on things that I needed, but I wasn't getting in my real life.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So it was pure escapism.
Yeah, so like psychological escapism.
Very much.
Wow. So tell us about this book. You kind of started officially doing this back in 2020, is that right?
Yes.
So tell us what that book has been through since in that 4 years.
That book was written in the 2018-2019 year. Mm-hmm. It was edited in 2019, and 2020 I thought it was good to go. Mm-hmm. So I sat down, and I had never queried before, so I read everything I could find about querying. Do your research. Make sure you have a cracking good query letter. Make sure your first 5 pages are stellar. Don't pester people who don't represent your genre. All very good, sensible things. I joined the Manuscript Academy. I joined some other writing groups, and to make sure that I was pitching to my best possible ability. Mm-hmm. I read Manuscript Wishlist from top to bottom, and I joined Query Tracker, which is a tool that is available on the web. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, I've done everything possible to make sure that I launch myself well. And I had my very select list of agents who had represented similar genres, similar types of stories, and who had also asked for neurodiverse authors. Mm-hmm. So I thought, hey, I've got what they wanted. And I started querying in October of 2020, and I absolutely fell flat on my face.
Oh, you're not alone.
Yeah.
This probably is what the vast majority of people who who start querying.
I have
would
the
have thought.
consolation of knowing I'm average.
Yeah.
What sort of feedback and rejections were you getting? Were you getting nice ones? Were you just getting ghosted? Were you getting constructive criticism?
I got nothing.
Oh.
In general, nobody responded to me wanting a partial or a full, so there was that out.
Yeah.
I got nobody offering me, well, this is your strength and this is your strength. None of that. I was fortunate enough not to have anybody write back and say, oh my God, why are you wasting my time with this? So I missed out on that too.
So just straight rejections, fairly straightforward, very short, to the point.
Exactly. It's not for me. Thank you very much. Try again.
So where did that leave you in terms of your headspace and feelings towards your novel and writing?
I will always write. I will always be a storyteller.
Yeah.
Whether I am a published storyteller or whether I am not a published storyteller is not really up to my decisions if I want to go the traditional route. So after all of those rejections, I was just in a quandary. I didn't know. I had so little feedback.
Yeah, you're just a bit adrift, really.
Exactly. No strengths, no weaknesses, no do this, no do that. Just thank you, goodbye, next. And that's probably the greatest frustration I have felt, which is, would somebody please talk to me?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you'd be kind of ripe for hiring an editor to help you in that process. I mean, obviously, we can't all afford to do that. It doesn't come cheap. And of course, even then, once you've paid for an editor, there's no guarantee that they'll even, help you get an agent, even if they're a brilliant editor. Is that something that you've looked at?
I have. With the first book, I sat down and I said, okay, obviously it's not baked enough yet. I asked a friend who is a professional editor, and she said, basically, you're starting in the wrong point.
Right.
And I said, okay, I get it. So essentially, I cut off the front half of the book.
We were talking about that only last week.
We were, yeah.
And I listened to that one.
Any piece of writing that's not going where you want it, generally chop off the first bit and then relook at it.
Exactly what I did. After that, I thought, and I went back to a friend of mine, a different one, and she said that she would edit it for, kind of friend rate. I said, oh, thank you so much. And she gave it a good line edit. And I thought, okay, great, we're good to go. And I started querying again in January of 2023. And first time I queried, I had gotten kind of desperate and said, well, I'll just try everybody. So I ended up doing a shotgun, which was not to my advantage. So this time, did my research again, read all the manuscript wish lists, tried to hone it down to the very, very best matches that I could. And I sent out my second batch of queries. And again, I got very little back. And there had been a distinct shift in agency policy between 2020 and 2023.
Oh, right. Interesting. What was that?
Well, the thing I noticed in my 2023 queries was very frequently at the bottom of an agent's profile, it would say, if you don't hear back from us within 6 weeks, it's a no.
Right. Okay.
And I find that frustrating too, because then it's, again, I know they're overwhelmed. They have too much to do. You can't send a personalized email to everybody. I understand that, but you can't press a button and send a formatted email that says, I'm so sorry. So 2023 was mostly querying, trying to send out 2 or 3 at a time to make sure I didn't overwhelm myself, and I didn't, and I tweaked things in between to make it better. And by the end of April, I had finished my list of 20 suspected good matches. And then I got desperate and did another shotgun.
Why not? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
interesting.
So where does that leave you now? Where are you now?
Well, I have book 1, which I am thinking about rewriting from a totally different point of view, which would change it very, very much. The only problem is that character dies at the end, which makes it hard for a series.
Yeah.
I have a second book, which I invested in a developmental editor. I was very unfortunate that I had a family member pass. But their gift to me was enough money that I was able to go out and hire a professional developmental editor. And wow, that was, I knew it was going to be expensive, not going at friend rate, but wow, I was like, okay, guess I'm not getting those extra shoes.
This is the book. You said you got a second novel, and you said it was kind of along the same lines. Do you mean in terms of genre or in terms of story? Like, is it kind of an adapted version of the original, or a completely different story in the same genre?
The second story is a continuation from the first story.
I see. So in the same world, some of the same characters, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
And how's that gone with the developmental editor?
It went okay, in my opinion. She seemed to like it. There were lots of nice little marginalia notes.
Yeah.
But her biggest critique to me was, you got too many words. Cut out about 20,000.
Right, okay. And does that situation, I mean, I don't know how finished is the second book?
The second book is, I am desperately combing through it going, does this scene really help me?
Yeah.
Yes or no? No, it doesn't. Chuck it out.
Kill your darlings and all that business.
Yes, they're slaughtered all over the floor.
It's a massacre.
It's a massacre.
And do you feel different in your mind in terms of assuming you will get to the point of querying this one? Do you feel that you're in a better place with it, that because of the developmental editor, because of what you've learned from the first one, that it might be on firmer ground to query?
I hope the developmental editor has pointed me in the right direction so that I have a better product.
Yeah.
You mentioned in your email that you had a kind of a suspicion that your neurodiversity might be responsible for making your manuscript less saleable.
I wonder that.
Are you able to tell us a bit more about that? Or?
How to explain it? I have a certain type of neurodiversity, which is called complex PTSD, and gives me a very particular way of looking at the world, which is very dark.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm wondering if that darkness is making my stories unpalatable.
Although there must be an audience for that as well.
I hope there is.
You'd think. You'd think, wouldn't you? But it is about finding your audience as well, isn't it? And it's about approaching an agent saying, these are the kinds of people who might want to read this. But then it's difficult. You can't tell an agent.
I think this goes back to the problem, doesn't it, that we were saying before about getting these blank rejections and kind of banging your head against that brick wall. That you end up in your own little echo chamber to some extent, and you start second guessing everything and changing things that don't need being changed, or that might be complete nonsense about whether it's too far out of a publishable thing. It might be perfect, or it could be like you said in your email to us. I don't know if it's my writing, or my story, or the neurodiversity thing, and it's like, well, yeah. How do you know when you're not getting any of the feedback or kind of something from someone to say this is rubbish but it's good because
exactly
something.
I just need a shaft of sunlight that I can find my way out of the dark, as it were.
Yeah. One of the questions we asked of people was, depending on where they were in their journey and how frustrated and annoyed with the whole thing they were, whether they considered self-publishing or not, either as a cathartic, just getting it out there thing, or finding a different path to market. Is that something you've considered or not?
I have considered it. At the moment, I am still hoping to be traditionally published.
Yeah.
If that doesn't work, and I really have, as you said, the burning need to have it out there, I may go the self-publishing route. The reason I haven't done that is because I absolutely am horrible when it comes to marketing.
It requires a set of skills that a lot of writers don't have, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, and a personality, the ability to go out and say, I have a great thing here, and I would rather go to the dentist than do that.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
So that was Mary, and you feel like she's learnt a lot in her querying journey. I think she's just in much better shape in terms of pitching, knowing what she's doing compared with when she started, from what she said. Yeah,
she did a research and she got properly stuck into it. But yeah, in a way, I'm not sure if that makes it even worse when things don't go your way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I know. But that's a bit like a bit of a loser's mantra, isn't it? Oh, well, I didn't really try, so that's why I failed. Pretty much cognitive dissonance 101, isn't it? I mean, trust me on that one. I know what I'm on about in this one. Whereas she kind of put the hard work in to get all the ducks in a row.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, it is actually better to give it your best shot and then fail, because then you know that you did everything you could.
Exactly, yeah.
So
exactly.
Mara's going about it the right way, I think. She's actually, giving herself the best possible chance, at least.
Yeah, investing in herself, isn't she? She's kind of making sure she's got no regrets. Anyway, fingers crossed she gets somewhere.
Yeah, we actually made a promise to keep us updated if anything comes off.
Yeah, and I hope it does. Really hope it does, yeah.
We even said, with all three of our guests today, me and Tommy were talking after we'd interviewed them all, and Tommy, you suggested that we should do a follow-up episode next season and see how they're all getting on.
Yeah, well, I thought that'd be a really good idea, but then you pointed out that they might still just be ploughing a lonely and fertile furrow when we caught back up with them.
Quite worded like
that could
Tom,
actually be a little bit depressing. So maybe we just wait for them to get back to us with some really good news.
Anyway, on to our last guest, Özgür Uyanık.
Another tale of nearlies and maybes and stories of meeting with Hollywood agents, talking to people under the stairs of bookshops in Amsterdam, and even getting published. Just all mixed of the usual stuff, really. Well, thank you for joining us, Oz. I thought the story you sent through of your journey through your writing career, if you like, I thought was really interesting.
Okay.
Because you kind of struggled and failed, but then at the same time, you've had stuff published, you've done stuff.
Yeah, it's like you've been flirting with success for quite a long time.
Yeah, I suppose you could call it flirting. I think we all fail, constantly. And the few successes that we do have are the ones that obviously we tend to talk about more. I think behind every writer, there is a big sort of reservoir of failures.
Yeah. So you, at the start of what you sent through to us, you said you've kind of given up on trying to get an agent or anything like that. So you've been querying agents for a long time?
On and off. I began querying agents when I was writing screenplays, at the age of 17 or 18. I'd been making short films, with my friends and whatnot, since I was 12. So I was, writing the scripts, and I kind of decided I was ready to write a feature film. And appropriately enough, I chose as my subject Don Quixote. I wrote this story, a contemporary story, and I somehow weaved in the Don Quixote tale in a kind of magical realist sense. And I had this script, and I had no idea what to do with it. But because I had people that I made short films with, inevitably there was somebody I met who knew more about it than I did, or so I thought at the time. And the only problem was that he was based in Los Angeles, but he had family connections to an agency. And already at that age, I knew it was going to be an uphill struggle to try and get an agent. But in my early 20s, I had the opportunity to travel to the States because I had enough friends there on the East Coast and the West Coast that I could, do it for a budget by staying over and sleeping on sofas and so on. And I worked my way around from New York through New England to Los Angeles, where my friend lived, and he set up a meeting with an agent at ICM, and which was a huge deal, obviously. And I went to the meeting, and I quickly realized that it was one of those you are not going to get beyond the lobby type meetings. Right. An assistant parked himself on the armrest of one of the sofas there in the lobby, ready to run away at the drop of a hat. And he gave me one of those speeches about, yes, we've read the script and thanks for coming, but it's going to be a no. Keep trying, etc. So that was my first experience of a rejection from an agent. Right, it was pretty harsh at the time.
Did you get the feeling that they had actually read the script?
I did, yeah. I think, well, at least they'd read a reader's report. They knew the outline of, and they had some notes as well, which was helpful, and I appreciated that. And I appreciated the fact that they met with me. I took away from it as much positive as I could, but it only confirmed the fact that it was going to be an uphill struggle. So I kind of just went my own way for a long time, working my way up from a runner to a development executive in the film industry in the UK, where I started off reading scripts myself, and then became a development executive, and I started meeting a lot of the agents. who were pitching to me because they wanted their clients to, to be put on our slate. And so I learned the business that way, sort of backwards, if you like. Yeah. So that was both informative and also, even more intimidating as a writer because you knew what you were up against. But I did meet enough agents that, I understood them as, human beings with big workloads, and I started to get an idea of, what they wanted and how they functioned and so on. Then I got an agent after one of my short films won an award in Europe and was doing quite well on the festival circuit. But that didn't last. I was sort of represented as a writer-director rather than an author at the time. But I kept at it, and over the years I've pivoted to, although I continue to write screenplays, I pivoted towards literature because making a film, the cost of entry is so high. When you write a screenplay, it's just a liminal document, isn't it? It's not the final artifact. You need so much money and so many collaborators to progress that I thought, well, writing a novel, at least if you've written the manuscript, you've got the manuscript. It's even if it's unpublished, you can sort of see a way towards getting it published without having to mortgage your house or whatever. So
it's the finished article, isn't it?
Yeah. So I found that very attractive as a proposition because I wanted to write and I wanted to reach audiences, and I thought, well, a readership is an audience. I love novels. I love reading. I love writing. So why not do that? And so I sat down and wrote a novel. Yeah, and then that took me into another world of publishing.
And you had a couple of brief forays with success. You pitched your book to a local publisher, and what happened there? That seemed to go well initially.
Yeah, it was one of those sort of dreamy experiences. I was in Amsterdam participating in a scriptwriters lab and spotted a poster in the window of the American bookstore in central Amsterdam that said, "Pitch your novel." And there was a little book inside the shop where you signed your name, in a time slot. And then I turned up, and there was this desk under the stairs of the bookstore, and a rather sullen-looking man sitting there hunched over, having probably sat through, several pitches already.
I mean, you can only think that's some kind of punishment he's been given, isn't it? He's done something terrible. Now he's sentenced to just listening to pitch upon pitch of budding author.
He looked as if he was in purgatory, and he wasn't even making any eye contact with me when I started. He was just staring at the table. It was really quite unnerving.
I'm guessing you left that without a lot of hope.
Well, what happened was during the pitch, he started to come to life, and he turned around and looked me in the eye as I was telling the story. And I thought, hello, there's attention. He's beginning to smile and, react and do all the things that you hope a person will do when you're pitching to them. And at the end of it, it was enthusiastically nodding his head. And then he said, "Send me the manuscript." So, it was good. It was a good ending.
Wow. So you turned him. That's amazing.
You breathed life back into his hollow existence.
Yeah. But of course, it's important. I mean, the pitching thing is so important. Of course, I've been doing it for years in the film industry. I'd been, as an executive, as a filmmaker, I'd been pitching projects to producers and financiers and my colleagues, and going to theatre plays, and reading new novels and seeing how we could adapt them and pitching them to my boss. I mean, I was just, a pitching machine at that point. So I had that to my advantage. And I think any aspiring writers out there listening to this, they need to really hone their pitching skills because, you've only got a couple of minutes to get someone's attention. And whether it's a query letter or in person or the famous elevator pitch or pitching to a panel or whatever it is, whatever environment you're in, you have to have a pitch ready for that environment. And it's not as daunting as it sounds. Once you get the hang of it, it's really a few sort of key steps that you need to take, and then off you go.
So you actually got a deal. You actually got a deal off this, did you?
Yeah, I mean, to my delight and shock, a few months later, he called me up and said, we love your writing. I think it's a fantastic book. We have notes, but we want to offer you a 2-book deal.
Whoa.
And what do you say? So I said, why don't we just do a 1-book deal? Because, I don't know, I think I just had a gut feeling about it. Do you know what I mean? I just thought, well, let's see what they've got to offer. I wasn't being sort of arrogant or anything like that, but At least I don't think I was. I just thought it'll be better to take a cautious approach. And I'm glad I did that, because after the rewrites and addressing their notes and so on, eventually they couldn't make it work. Because they were a Dutch publisher, they needed to partner up with an English language publisher. They'd done this before and they wanted to do it again with my book. But after about at least a year or 18 months of them trying to find a UK publisher to partner up with them, they just couldn't make it work. But I stayed with them until the day when I got the email saying, Oz, we're really sorry, just can't make this work. You can keep the advance.
Hey, that's good.
And so that was a nice sweetener, I suppose, and very decent of them. And of course, the manuscript was now in good shape because of all the rewrites. Yeah, so overall, it was a fantastic sort of experience, and kind of gave me the impetus to approach publishers directly and kind of not pin all my hopes on getting representation.
It's interesting because, this is the novel conception, is that right?
Yeah.
And so that was then picked up by Fairlight, an indie publisher, in 2020, and you got good reviews for that as well, I think.
Yeah, it was a case of submitting to the indie press publishers via their websites, because they've all got submission guidelines on there, and they don't require people to be agented to accept submissions. So I took that route and pitched it to a few. I mean, it wasn't just Fairlight. They're the first ones who said yes, and they're based in Oxford. So I met up with them, and the vibes were good. They were a new indie publisher, very enthusiastic, and knew what they were doing. And it came out, unfortunately, right in the middle of the beginning of the pandemic. But they did get it out to a lot of readers, and it did okay in terms of the the feedback from the readership.
What sort of numbers did that sell in?
I don't know the exact numbers,
Right.
because it's being sold in the US and Canada as well now. But it certainly hasn't cracked the 1,000 mark.
And how do you feel about that in terms of success or failure? I mean, that's not going to be enough to buy a yacht, is it? But I mean, where do you draw the line of success?
I think getting published is the success. I think getting your manuscript in shape by collaborating with an editor and a publisher is the success, because that's such a rare and valuable experience in the first novel, especially.
You're another example of someone who has been able to get books published without an agent, which I think in the past has sort of gone against the grain of, the established wisdom. I'm starting to wonder if, I don't know, if the tide has slightly turned, and whether maybe there are more publishers going direct more often.
I believe it is happening more often. I mean, if you look at the number of indie presses out there who have their own niches, some of them concentrate on poetry, for example, others do both. It's a lot of, there's some genre publishers out there as well who are independent, and more people are taking that route. But I think the awareness amongst writers who are emerging, who are new to it, isn't great. There's a lot of emphasis on, you have to get an agent, otherwise, they won't accept unsolicited material at the big five traditional publishers. But the big five traditional publishers are in a completely different business.
Yeah, they very much are.
I mean, if I had to give some advice to anyone starting out, it would be, look at what you've written, decide if it's genre or if it's literary fiction. Instead of pinning all your hopes on getting representation, try going the direct route. And the only thing that's really, really difficult for an author who doesn't have an agent is selling yourself in your own work. It's got that ick factor, hasn't it? And that's something, like I said, can be ameliorated by a good pitch. If you have a good pitch, if you have a good understanding of what it means, then you're halfway there already.
So talking of good pitches, Oz, you've got a book that came out this year, Men Alone. What's the pitch for that?
Well, it's a collection of short stories about men and their aloneness. That's kind of distinct from loneliness. There's a lot of men aren't particularly lonely, but they do find themselves alone. and often thinking alone, and end up making terrible errors. And so the stories are a combination of tragedy and comedy, of men in various stages of their life dealing with their own existential angst or relationships, and unfortunately trying to do it alone and coming a cropper.
And how's that going? How have you found has that been published with the same publisher or different, or how's that worked and how's it going?
No, my previous publisher passed on it, and I shopped it around. Because I'm based in Wales, I pitched it to a Welsh publisher called Parthian Books. It's difficult to pitch or to sell a collection of short stories if you're not a named author already.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I'd written these short stories and I wanted them published, so I approached the publisher and they said, "Okay, sounds good."
So against all odds, you've done it again. You're obviously very good at pitching. Well, there's your next book.
Do you reckon non-fiction, how to pitch?
Yeah, how to pitch. Who doesn't want to know that? Yeah, definitely.
Oz, thank you so much for your time and sharing your roller coaster story, really. Peppered with success, a nearly big success. And hopefully this is just the prelude to
massive success.
Some proper massive success on the horizon. But yeah, it's really interesting hearing just those little, everyone just has these little brushes with nearlies and not quites and, oh, that was a thing. And then, oh, it's not gone anywhere after that. And then, oh, but this has popped up. It's just not a black and white zero-sum game, is it? There's a lot of in-between events.
And everybody has such a different route as well to that success, however much success it is.
Yeah, it's good to take advice from other people, but you really have to plow your own furrow and don't focus on the success part. Just focus on the doing part, I think.
Oof, yes, that's one to leave it with. That's
that's one for us, Tom.
That is, isn't it? Definitely that. Oz, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Oz.
Thank you.
Thanks a
All
lot.
the best.
Bye.
So, John, let me ask that tricky little question again. What have we learned?
What, from Oz?
From Oz, from Marie, from Byddi, from everyone, from the whole shebang. What have we learned? Have we cracked the secrets to getting an agent? Have we given our listeners the tips and tricks they need to take the publishing world by storm and become the successful writers that they deserve to be?
No,
What?
Probably not.
No. Well, all right. Well, what have we learned then?
Well, I mean, thing is, Tom, do we always have to learn something? Can't we just have a nice little podcast episode without having to actually learn something?
I think we've got a massive back catalogue full of them. We must have uncovered at least one precious little nugget of knowledge.
Well, you know what? There is something.
What's that?
And actually, I'm not sure if it's even more valuable than a shortcut to querying success.
Whoa, right. No, okay. Hold that thought. But that's quite good. That I think we should call this episode a shortcut to querying success, because that is going to do so well on the Google algorithm.
Good, actually.
From desperate wannabe authors searching for stuff, isn't it? Shortcut to querying success. That's what everyone wants, isn't it? The easy route to something hard. Anyway, sorry, you were saying. What was I saying?
I think our little nugget, I think what we've got is a sense of not being alone on this often lonely journey, which can feel a bit like banging your head against a brick wall. It's just a little bit of consolation and comfort, isn't it? To remember that, yes, we might all be going about our writing business separately and doing it slightly differently and getting our own personal wins and fails.
Yeah.
But at the same time as all that, we're kind of all in it together. We need to remember it's not just us that's getting rejections or nearly getting a deal or whatever. It's all of us, and it's normal. And actually, the only real way to fail is to fail to try.
Wow, yeah. I think, I'd go with that. We're all separately in this together, and together we're all failing separately, but really that's not really failing. Yeah, cool.
That's it.
I think,
just nailed it.
It is that, though, isn't it? And we just haven't reached it. Like we said before, you haven't reached the end of the journey yet, so you don't actually know if you failed.
No, exactly. Yet. And everybody feels that.
We always say about the podcast, don't we? It's the failing writers. We're still in the process of failing, which is the steps to success.
And of course, some people never reach it, but again, it depends on your criteria for success. just set your bar a little bit lower. That's
Absolutely.
what I've done over the years.
Just say that really low.
So, you know what? If we've even made one querying writer crack a little whimsical smile or decide that, do you know what, actually, they're going to dust themselves off and get up and go again, then that is what this episode is all about.
Yeah, I think that's a positive. I like that. Yeah, that's a positive message.
Exactly.
We should probably end the episode immediately before we find a way to drag it all backwards into a depressing failure.
Yeah, we definitely should do that. Let's do that now.
Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, and massive thank you to Byddi, Mari and Oz.
Definitely. I mean, for them to come on, just open themselves up, be dead honest with us, share the stories, massively appreciated.
Yeah, you were ace.
And you can find links to their work in our show notes as well. So do please go and check them out, show them support and love. And
yeah, definitely do that. In fact, do it right now before you forget, because you know what will happen. You'll just go off and do something else. Check it out right now. Okay, right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for listening to the Failing Writers podcast. Remember to spread the word and bring us more listeners, flatter our fragile egos.
Oh, yes, please. Yes, that's always nice. Nothing like increased listener numbers to fluff one's turgid, floppy ego.
Okay. And we'll leave you with this delightful ditty which sums up the querying journey of our three guests through the medium of thoroughly average song.
Bye-bye.
Here's a little summation of our three guests' journey, where they've been, what they've done, what we've been learning. Byddi's been hunting agents for 12 years. You get less for murder, maybe less tears. Who knows why they've been so bloody choosy? Maybe it's more tricky when you're a genre floozy. They'll keep trying, pushing on, won't give up, they're staying strong. Light at the end of the tunnel, yeah. Hope it's not a train coming right at ya. Mary grabbed it by the darlings, edited quite brutally. Fingers crossed it's not an exercise in futility. Holding out for trad pub and ain't that the truth? Cause marketing's more scary than a root canal in the tooth. They'll keep trying, pushing on, won't give up, they're staying strong. Light at the end of the tunnel, yeah. Hope it's not a train coming right at ya. Oz went global trying to bag representation, though Hollywood's a long way to go get rejections. Who needs an agent when you can pitch yourself like that? A 2-book deal and a bookshop stash from a bored-looking Dutch chap. They'll keep trying, pushing on, won't give up, they're staying strong. Light at the end of the tunnel, yeah. Hope it's not a train coming right at ya. Not a train coming right at ya. Sounds like, is that a train? Is that coming to up? Difficult to tell.
Hello?
Hello?
Where's everybody gone?